Welcome to Delta Wing Aviation Academy, where we prepare you for takeoff.
Hello, pilots. Welcome back to Delta Wing Aviation Academy, where we prepare you for takeoff. In today's regulation-focused lesson from our Private Pilot series, we'll continue building your foundation in the Private Pilot Airman Certification Standards, ACS. Let's move forward into another important area of aircraft regulations. Today we'll begin with Task B, Airworthiness Requirements. In this lesson, we'll focus on PA.I.B.K3d required discrepancy records or placards. Before we begin, keep in mind that important FAA regulations and references will appear on screen throughout the video. Feel free to pause, take notes, or capture screenshots for later review. As always, we'll break everything down step by step using simple explanations, real-world pilot scenarios, checkride-focused understanding, so you can confidently apply this knowledge during training, oral exams, and real flight operations. And if you're short on time, you can go directly to the end, where we'll summarize everything in a quick and easy review format. All right, pilots, let's begin. Today's topic are required discrepancy records or placards.
As a pilot, it's important to understand how aircraft maintenance discrepancies are documented and how inoperative equipment is identified.
When maintenance or inspections are performed on an aircraft operated under 14 CFR Part 91, the FAA requires proper maintenance record entries before the aircraft can be returned to service. Let's start with the maintenance record requirements. According to 14 CFR Section 4311, any person approving or disapproving an aircraft for return to service after an inspection must make an entry in the aircraft maintenance records that includes type of inspection performed, brief description of the work completed, date of the inspection, signature of the person making the approval, certificate number, type of certificate held.
As you can see, these entries create a permanent record of the aircraft's maintenance status.
Now that we understand what information must be recorded, let's move on to what happens after the inspection is completed. Let's look at the first possible outcome, when the aircraft is airworthy. If the aircraft passes inspection and is determined to be airworthy, the inspector must make a maintenance record entry containing a statement similar to, "I certify that this aircraft has been inspected in accordance with inspection type and was determined to be in airworthy condition." This entry authorizes the aircraft's return to service. Now that's the best case scenario. But what if the aircraft does not pass the inspection? Let's find out. Let's move on to the second possible outcome. When the aircraft is not airworthy, sometimes an inspection reveals defects or discrepancies that prevent the aircraft from meeting airworthiness requirements. In that situation, a maintenance record entry must be made stating that the aircraft is not airworthy. A list of discrepancies must be provided to the aircraft owner or operator.
The aircraft may not be returned to service until the discrepancies are corrected or appropriately deferred in accordance with FAA regulations.
Now that we've covered discrepancy records, let's look at another important FAA requirement: placards, inoperative equipment and placards. Now let's discuss placards. Before we talk about inoperative equipment, let's first understand what a placard is. A placard is simply a label, sticker, sign, or marking placed in an aircraft to provide important information, limitations, or warnings to the pilot. Simple definition: placard is a notice or label that tells the pilot something important about the aircraft or its equipment. Common examples of placards: inoperative placard. If a landing light, radio, or other piece of equipment is not working but is legally allowed to remain installed, a placard marked inoperative is placed near the switch or instrument. Fuel placard, located near the fuel filler cap. AVGAS 100L only. Passenger warning, placard, no smoking. Real life comparison. Think of a placard like a sticker placed on a broken control in your car that says "Do not use." The sticker immediately tells the driver that the equipment is not available for use. Aircraft placards serve the same purpose. They provide important information and warnings to pilots. Now that we understand what a placard is, let's move on to inoperative equipment and placards.
Under 14 CFR 91-213D, certain instruments and equipment may be permitted to remain inoperative under specific conditions, provided the requirements of the regulation are met.
Before the aircraft can be considered airworthy for flight, the inoperative instrument or equipment must be deactivated or removed if required. The affected instrument or equipment must be clearly placarded inoperative. Any cockpit control associated with that equipment must also be appropriately marked if necessary.
These placards alert pilots that the equipment is not available for use during flight.
As pilots, these placards provide an immediate visual reminder that the equipment cannot be used. To see how this works in the real world, let's walk through a practical pilot scenario. Real-world pilot scenario. Imagine you're preparing for a local daytime VFR flight. During pre-flight, you discover the landing light is inoperative. You review the regulations and determine the flight will be conducted during daytime. The landing light is not required by Section 91-205 for the planned daytime VFR operation and is not required by the aircraft's Type Certificate, KOEL, Equipment List, or any applicable airworthiness directive. It is not required by the Type Certificate, KOEL, or any applicable regulation for the planned operation. A certificated mechanic deactivates the light and places an inoperative placard on the switch. The discrepancy is properly documented. In this case, the aircraft may be legally operated under Part 91.
However, if the discrepancy is not documented or placarded, the aircraft may not meet airworthiness requirements. This example highlights why discrepancy records and placards are so important.
Now, before we wrap up, let's quickly review the key points. All right, pilots, before we finish, let's quickly review what we've learned today. Maintenance inspections require proper maintenance record entries. Maintenance records must include the inspection type, work performed, date, signature, certificate number, and certificate type. If the aircraft is airworthy, an approval for return to service statement must be entered in the records. If the aircraft is not airworthy, a discrepancy list must be provided to the owner or operator. Inoperative equipment permitted under Section 91-213D must be properly deactivated and placarded as inoperative. Pilots should always review aircraft maintenance records and placards before flight. These are important concepts FAA examiners expect private pilots to understand during both oral examinations and practical tests. Checkride-style oral scenarios. All right, pilots, now let's finish with some realistic checkride-style oral scenarios, similar to what a DPE may ask during your FAA practical test. DPE question: what is a placard? Your answer: a placard is a label, sign, or marking installed in an aircraft that provides operating information, limitations, warnings, or identifies equipment that is inoperative. Next DPE question: during pre-flight, you notice a placard marked inoperative on a navigation light. Can you still fly the aircraft? Your answer: it depends on the type of operation. I would determine whether the navigation light is required by Section 91-205, the aircraft's Type Certificate, KOEL, Equipment List, or any applicable AD. If it is not required for the planned operation and has been properly deactivated, documented, and placarded under Section 91-213D, the flight may be conducted legally. Next DPE question: what must be included in a maintenance record entry following an inspection? Your answer: the entry must include the type of inspection, a description of the work performed, the date, the signature of the person making the entry, their certificate number, and the type of certificate held. Next DPE question: what happens if an aircraft fails an inspection? Your answer: the inspector must enter a statement indicating the aircraft is not airworthy and provide the owner or operator with a list of discrepancies that need correction. Next DPE question: who receives the discrepancy list when an aircraft is found not airworthy? Your answer: the aircraft owner or operator receives the discrepancy list, so the deficiencies can be corrected before the aircraft returns to service. Next DPE question. Can a pilot simply place an inoperative sticker on broken equipment and fly? Your answer? No. The equipment must meet the requirements of Section 91-213. The item must be properly evaluated, deactivated if necessary, documented appropriately, and placarded before operation. Next DPE. Question. Why are placards important? Your answer. Placards provide immediate notification to pilots that specific equipment is not operational, helping prevent inadvertent use and ensuring regulatory compliance. Next DPE question. As PIC, what should you review regarding maintenance before every flight? Your answer. I should review the aircraft maintenance records, verify required inspections are current, check for unresolved discrepancies, and ensure any inoperative equipment has been properly documented and placarded. Thank you for watching today's lesson on required discrepancy records or placards. If you found this lesson helpful, please like, subscribe, and share the channel. Your support helps us continue providing clear, FAA accurate aviation education for pilots around the world. Fly safe, and I'll see you in the next video.